Hello there, fellow model railroaders. Okay, I've got a big day coming up. I'm having an op session on my layout this coming Saturday, December 2nd, and I'm pretty excited about it. I've got this layout dialed in now, finally, and what I mean by that is that every car that you see here, as well as throughout the layout and in my staging area, has a reason for being there. It was not just arbitrarily picked out. The cars you see at the different industries throughout the layout were set out there by a previous train. So, I'll go through what you're looking at. I'll start off with staging. Everything pretty much starts here at staging. All the trains down here in staging have a reason for being there as well. All the cars, locomotives. I use Google Sheets, and I have all my locomotives and rolling stock inventoried on Google Sheets. And as you may well know, you can go in and highlight the cells that you want to randomize and then select randomize. And I just go by whatever ends up on the top of that randomization. And that's what I use. I only do that for my locomotives. I let this program, developed by a gentleman named Michael Rosenberg, and later expanded upon by a gentleman named Dave Hussman, and I'll get into that here in a little bit. But I use Google Sheets to pick out my locomotives for me. I've got all my locomotives inventoried. So you're probably thinking, boy, this guy really likes Southern Pacific. Well, they're the railroad I grew up with. And I really like the SP, but the locomotives you see here were picked by what I call the power desk. I have a tab in my spreadsheet with all my locomotives on it. And I randomize a column, and then whatever locomotive ends up at the top of that column, when I randomize it, that's the locomotive I use. So this time it just happened, the power desk assigned a lot of SP stuff. So other times I'm sure it'll be different. So anyhow, this is Arnold Yard, and I've got a short line train destined for the Dakota, Nebraska, and Western Railroad that's going on to the branch line, and it will not come back. So, and then I have this train, SP 6612, it's the Wendell local, and he'll be coming over here, leaving Arnold Yard, going east, make one lap around the layout, and then he comes into Wendell onto the siding, and he's got a team track, a corn syrup plant, an oil depot, a feed store, and an LPG distributor that he'll serve. So as for the branch line, let me go back to the branch line real quick. When he leaves, this is the branch line train here, by the way. It's the Dakota, Nebraska, and Western. But the locomotive that they have is being worked on. So they have borrowed a locomotive from the Burlington Northern. And this is the train that's going to be coming up. He'll come off the branch line, do one lap around the layout, and then come in to Arnold Yard, drop his cars off, and exchange those cars for this train here. So he's got a scrap metal load, a tractor load, and some TOFC, trailer and flat car loads. That'll be going back onto the branch line and not coming back. Some of these cars may come back eventually, but my theory is that the Dakota, Nebraska, and Western interchanges with more than just my railroad. They interchange with maybe one or two other railroads. So the cars that you see here that he's going to pick up on Arnold Yard will most likely go onto the short line or onto the Dakota, Nebraska, and Western and be sent to businesses that the Dakota, Nebraska, and Western serves, or interchanged with another railroad that I don't model. So that's my take. I want every car on the layout to be there for a reason, and every train that's on the layout to be here for a reason. So that's the deal with the short line and the Wendell local. Then I also have this train here. This is the Arnold Yard job, and this is the power for the Arnold Yard job. 5726, it's an Alco RS11, and he has to serve the Arnold Industry Track, which has an ice house, barrel manufacturer, and what is to be a freight house. Right now it's a lumber yard or a lumber mill, but that's okay. It's a good stand-in for now. And then there's a team track and a supply track, as well as a clean-out track down here, which keeps him plenty busy. And keep in mind that there's trains coming in here, such as the Dakota, Nebraska, and Western, as well as a way freight and a transfer job that'll be coming up from staging that he needs to coordinate with to get cars onto the layout from those trains that will be serving on layout industry. So the next train is the Mena Turn. And the Mena Turn is responsible for serving all the towns except for Arnold and Wendell. He'll serve Hanford, Pratt, Mena, and Hearn. And this train can leave with like only maybe 4 or 5 cars. He's got more today. And he can come back with well over 10 cars. So, and then sometimes it'll be the opposite. He'll leave Arnold Yard with, as you can see, he's a pretty long train now, long for my layout anyhow, and come back with hardly anything. So it all depends on how things work out. I mean, it all depends. And that's what I love about it. Because that's kind of what happens in real life. So that's his responsibility. He'll make one lap around before he pulls into the town of Hanford. And then he'll do his work in Hanford. And I leave it up to the operators as to how they want to do it. They can do all the trailing point switches up to Hearn, which is where they turn around and start heading back to Arnold. Or they can do everything at once. It's all up to them. Everyone sees it different. So, and that's, to me, that's the fun of it. So, those are the trains in my layout that are in the yard, in Arnold Yard. Down here, I have my staging. And I have got a way freight. I've got a way freight train that'll be coming up and dropping off and picking up cars in Arnold Yard, as well as a transfer job that comes up from, it's a fictitious yard, Bellsman Yard, in the town of Dayton. So I call it the Dayton Transfer. And that name comes from Dayton Avenue Tower, which I used to hang out around a lot back in the 70s when my dad just worked right down the street from there. But at any rate, and then there's also a reefer train with a Union Pacific 412-2 on it. And the reefer train, as well as, well, actually all these trains in staging, the transfer job, the reefer train, as well as the way freight and the Amtrak passenger train, will be introduced throughout the op session to kind of give some variety and some challenge to the other operators working the different trains on the layout. So you're looking at my passenger train and you're saying, wait a minute, Amtrak, you're probably thinking, well, Amtrak never pulled heavyweight, New York Central heavyweight passenger cars, and you're right, and they most likely didn't. Of course, you never know, but these cars were given to me by a dear friend's wife, who his wife gave these to me after my friend passed away in 2004. She gave me a lot of his rolling stock, and I'm very fortunate because Dave took really good care of his stuff. He put Katie couplers on a lot of his stuff, and it's just now that I'm able to get to where I can start to run his stuff. I have a bunch of his stuff. When she gave me his stuff, my mouth fell to the ground. Because Dave and I would get together and run trains on his layout. I didn't have a layout at the time, so I'm kind of used to what he had. And when she gave a lot of his stuff to me, I was very honored. So the yard, Arnold Yard, is named after my friend Dave. His last name was Arnold. And it's been named Arnold Yard since the inception of this layout at my other house back in, about 2005? So this is Arnold Yard, named after my good friend Dave. And I'm running as much of your stuff as I can, Dave. So, and then down here is the engine facility. I have 2 SD9s on standby, because believe it or not, on this portion of the layout, I'm just rattling on, so I hope you don't mind, but just giving you an update on what's going on. But on this portion of the main line, right here, this is the main line. Right in this area, right in here on the main line, sometimes a train will stall. And I kind of like that. There's been several times when I've had to have a locomotive go and rescue a train up because it stalled. It didn't have enough horsepower to get its train over this grade right here. So I like that. Sometimes I've just coupled up to the front of the locomotive, to the front of the train, and sometimes I've had to get in the back and shove, which is something I really like. So anyhow, that's kind of the lowdown with my layout. I'm working on some kits now. I'm working on a Blair kit for a freight house for this point, for this area right here. I'll probably use this building right here as another industry somewhere on the layout. So, but it is definitely a work in progress. I've just ordered some Tam Valley frog juicers. I'm going to start installing those on my switches, on my turnouts, because I do have some locomotives that stall out. So I'm hoping to eliminate that problem with the frog juicers. I want to develop this area. I want to work on this area. I really like how the idea I have for this area right here with the crossing tower, and I want this to be kind of rural-like. So it's between towns, between the town of Hanford and Wendell and Pratt. That's the town of Pratt over there. So I'm slowly working on things, bringing things around, doing scenery, working on DCC and sound installs, certifying my rolling stock, building structures, doing scenery. Did I say doing scenery already? So, and this program right here, if I can elaborate on this a little bit, this, like I said, this was developed by a gentleman named Michael Rosenberg. I found this on the Model Railroad Hobbyist forums years ago, probably back in, 2012, 2013. And this is actually the program that I have been using ever since. For about 11 years, I've been using this. And then another gentleman named Dave Hussman took Michael Rosenberg's program. I added the track diagram, by the way, and this area down here that has a description and how the train can be ran for each switch list. This one here is for Arnold Yard, and it tells you what the rules of the road are and what the responsibilities of the train are and how you can work it. And a gentleman named Dave Hussman took this program and expanded upon it, and now he took, see, like for instance, the Mena turn, it serves several towns, and I was able to get everything on one sheet of paper for the Mena turn, but the print is pretty small. So I'm trying to find ways to make things better, and that's something you future layout owners will find. You're always looking to improve, as I'm sure a lot of you out there already know. But the thing I like about this is I can take, there's a master switch list that all these switch lists work off of, and you can go in and configure it so these switch lists for each town will work off the master switch list. So now I'm working on a switch list for the branch line that gives this train inbound cars that it brings into Arnold Yard and other cars that are generated by this switch list that it picks up and takes back to the branch line. So I'm working on that. That's about the only thing left that I'm working on for that. I don't want to get on into really anything intensive. I don't want to spend a lot of time in front of the computer. I want to be out here in the garage working on all the different projects I've got. So the layout runs on Digitrax, you've probably seen. And I went on vacation this last summer, and I came back and I don't know what it was, but something clicked, and I'm able to use these throttles with it's a lot easier now. I still have to have the manual available because I forget how to consist stuff, but that's the story. I mean, this is where I'm at. The Digitrax layout, it's got an LNWI with a UR93, and a gentleman on the forums, Digitrax forums, said he had issues with the UR93 not working the way it should. And he tried installing it in every position thinkable, and he said the best result was when he installed it just as you see it on the ceiling, pretty much in the middle of the layout, as close to the middle of the layout as you can get. And he was right. I haven't had any problems with this. The one problem I did have was making sure that these wires, the LocoNet cables, were done right. You have to make sure when you make your own LocoNet cables that the white wire is on the right-hand side with the tab facing up. If the tab on the RJ12 is facing down and the white wire is on the right-hand side, that's not right. You have to make sure the white wire, there's 6 wires, and the white wire has to be on the right-hand side with the tab on the RJ12 facing up before you crimp it. So I was having problems with things not working right all the way through, and I had some of these panels here. I think it's the UP5s. They weren't working. What the heck? Well, I went through all my LocoNet cables, and sure enough, the white cable was on the left side with the tab facing up, and it was, so I had to go through all my cables and make sure things were right. That was quite an experience. So, but everything runs really good now. It's a really good running layout. I'm excited to get my frog juicers installed. They're in transit as we speak. I do have some turnouts, as I stated, that, or locomotives actually, that stall on some of these turnouts, especially the number 8s. The short wheelbase locomotives on the number 8 turnouts don't like the number 8s, the number 8 switches, because as you can see, the frog is very large. These are Atlas number 8s. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to power these, and hopefully that will eliminate that problem. So as a recap, this is Arnold Yard with staging underneath. Staging comes out over here. And I can do staging any way. I can either back a train out and then it can go east. Going east is that way. West is that way. And, or I can just bring it out head first and go west. So the staging adds a lot of challenge and interest and variety. And I've never had a layout before with staging, but I am really glad that I did it. So I guess with that, I hope you've enjoyed this update. I'm really looking forward to Saturday. I'm hoping everything goes right. I've cleaned all the wheels on my locomotives. I've cleaned the track. I'm just gonna go with it and see what happens. Maybe I'll do an update on Sunday of how things went down. Anyhow, I thank you for watching, and I'll be back with more. Okay, bye for now. Thank you for watching.